How should you structure your cannabis business? It's something you probably did not spend enough time on. Cash register. Hey, I'm Tom. Find me by Googling Cannabis Lawyer and going to my website, cannabisindustrylawyer.com, to answer all your questions about the cannabis industry. Like this one. What corporate entity should I use to form my dispensary? Should it be an S-Corp, a C-corp, an LLC, a partnership, or just my own thing, a sole proprietorship? If you're new to corporate entities, not sure if the adult use industry is right for you, maybe make some of that hemp money first and get your company more complex. No one needs to form a corporate structure for those hemp farms or for any other business. They can be a sole proprietor. But as businesses become more complex, they bring litigation and tax audit risk. Lawyers try to help businesses avoid these risks by giving you help with forming your corporate entity. So what is a corporate entity? Well, the most common terms thrown around are corporation or company. Typically, a corporation includes an S-Corp or a C-Corp, while a company is a limited liability company. Great. So which one of those do I need for my dispensary? An S-Corp, a C-Corp, or an LLC? Or is this a trick question? It's a trick question. And if you want to find out why, keep watching or call me to talk with me about your company or corporation. And of course, like and subscribe to tune into cannabis legalization news every Wednesday and our activism hour on Sundays. LLCs are newer than corporations, which may explain why they have less of the rules but more of the protections. People started corporations to allow for a greater organization and for a separation from that corporate entity and its property from its owners, aka the shareholders. It gave them added protection by creating this legal fiction called a corporation. The corporations required a charter or articles of incorporation or organization for an LLC that is filed with the Secretary of State's office. Corporations include various pieces of information in these documents, like the name and the purpose for the corporation. Back in the day, decades ago, a corporation could not go outside of the bounds of its charter, or else it would be considered ultra vires, or out of bounds, or out of the protections afforded to it by the state. This could jeopardize the management and shareholders to personal liability, or like 50 or more years ago it did. Today, LLCs can do any legitimate business. LLCs are about 40 years old now. That came out of Wyoming, and then they swept across the nation. Here in Illinois, we've had them for over 20 years. What is an LLC and how is it like and not like a corporation? Well, like a corporation, an LLC can do any legitimate business. However, the LLC has certain formalities that have been relaxed, whereas the corporations still have to follow those formalities or else they jeopardize their protection from limited liability. So do cannabis companies have to worry about any of this because their business is not yet legitimate at the federal level? Nope. The states are the ones that allow for property rights, which is what a corporation is. A corporate entity is a legal fiction that enjoys the rights to hold property and to operate, and even political speech now since Citizens United has been the law of the land for about 10 years. But people own the rights to the profits in the company. Or, of course, they could also be whatever. Yet they limit the risk. So if the company is sued or audited by the IRS, you, the shareholder, don't really have to worry. However, the corporate entity does. Corporate entities also give you the ability to split up the ownership. A social equity applicant needs a certain amount of ownership and control, for example, in Illinois. All of these things are governed by the corporate documents, whether the bylaws for a corporation or the operating agreement for an LLC. For ownership and control aspects, a manager-managed LLC gives the most straightforward answer to providing that control aspect vested in just one or more people. What's a manager-managed LLC or a member-managed LLC? Well, let's review a little bit of terminology. A member in an LLC is like a shareholder in a corporation. Instead of stock, the LLC has a membership unit. Like corporate stock, the membership units can be voting or not and be preferred or common. The members or the managers of an LLC have ownership and control of that business. If the members and managers control the LLCs, who controls the corporation? The shareholders and the board of directors, which an LLC can also have, and perhaps even another executive board governs. In the cannabis industry, advisory boards are very common. While they do not have any power, they do provide extra knowledge and experience that may reward your team's application with points to get you the license. So what is the biggest mistake that people make in organizing their cannabis companies? Not knowing how their company operates. Many times, people dismiss the operating agreement as being boilerplate, like they can get it from LegalZoom. That ain't the case in the cannabis industry with downstreaming and using complex related corporate entities to avoid certain tax liabilities. The operating agreement of the LLC is the guts of your company. It is its body. It is how it runs. You need to understand it with great detail, and a consultant or a lawyer or both should sit your team down and explain to you how your company works before you get the license. What else should you know before you get the license? How you get out of the license. This may come as a surprise. Everybody just wants to hold the license long term, but a lot of cannabis companies end up fighting over their ownership. So defining your exits correctly with your operating agreements or bylaws or a buy-sell agreement is very crucial for the smooth transitions of ownership for your cannabis business. Please don't overlook this and get some standard operating agreement that would work for most businesses, which you never even bother to read. Cannabis is not most businesses. So, which formation is right for your cannabis company? Well, until it's federally legal, the best organization for a cannabis dispensary, and probably for all the other cannabis businesses, is an LLC that elects to be taxed as a C-corp. Why? Because when, not if, but when your company gets audited by the IRS because of IRC 280E, then the audit risk is stopped at the corporate level and does not flow through to the ownership like it could if the LLC was merely a pass-through entity like most of them. Further, LLCs enjoy greater flexibility and less formality than traditional corporations, and that is why they are the preferred corporate structure. If any of this has been confusing to you, welcome to the club. Feel free to get in touch with me to discuss how to properly use your operating agreement to provide for all sorts of things like dilutions, spin-offs, ownership and control, entries and exits, which is so very important in states that require social equity based on that, like Illinois. So how do you find me? Simple. Google Cannabis Lawyer and click on my website, cannabisindustrylawyer.com, and then give me a call. Tune in next week for another great episode of Cannabis Legalization News. And now to Weekend.